Good morning. It's Thursday, October 2nd, International Day of Non-Violence. If you don't mind, please do this one. And now, the news. Starting with the government shutdown. Not sure what else to say here about the government shutdown. The government is shut down. It did not reopen overnight. I'm going to go ahead and warn you right now, we're probably going to be in this shutdown for a while. We should strive to be as optimistic as possible, but we should also not be delusional, unfortunately. Why do I believe this? Why do I believe that this shutdown might last a while? Because on Wednesday, Speaker Johnson went on something called the Moon Griffin Show. And before I continue, hang on one second. Moon Griffin? It's a local show in Tennessee. That's what he went on. But this show is called Here's What's Happening. And it's called that because Zaz was like, can you make me the news? And I was like, yeah, here's what's happening in the news. Here's what's happening. It's maybe not the most clever title in the world, but it makes sense. The Moon Griffin Show? All these GOP guys go on all these shows, and then we have to learn that shows like the Moon Griffin Show exist. It's a bummer. There are a lot of bummers. This one's low on the list of bummers, but it is a bummer. I can't wait to hear about how broccoli's illegal now on the Barbell Chicken Bone podcast hour next. Anyway, sorry. I don't know what it is about the Moon Griffin Show that really set me off, but I don't like it. But back to the fate of our nation, if we must. So Speaker Johnson goes on to this show and says that while the downside of the shutdown is that, hundreds of thousands of people will go without pay, some of whom will be forced to continue to work without pay, this shutdown, however, does have an upside. Quote, it does give an opportunity to the power in charge, the president in charge, to make unilateral decisions that don't need a vote of Congress about which programs in the government are essential and which are not, end quote. In fact, he said that he had already spoken to the president about that, about like, hey man, just so you know, cool thing about this shutdown, you can do whatever you want. So there is no rush on the Republican side to reopen the government because now Trump gets to decide which programs he wants to cut, and then it is up to Russell Vought, the director of the Office of Management and Budget, to give it the thumbs up or thumbs down. Vought is one of the authors of Project 2025. What's he going to do? Tell Trump no? If anything, he's going to point to a few programs that Trump might have missed. And it's already started. $18 billion in approved funding for two major transportation projects in Democratic New York City paused. $8 billion in approved climate change projects across 16 states, mostly Democratic, paused. He's also talked about another round of government layoffs because now they get to just do it. Meanwhile, the government is closed. And if you go to, say, SBA.gov, which is the official government website of the Small Business Association, there is a banner at the top that says, quote, Senate Democrats voted to block a clean federal funding bill, H.R. 5371, leading to a government shutdown that is preventing the U.S. Small Business Administration from serving America's 36 million small businesses. Every day that Senate Democrats continue oppose, that's, by the way, their typo. They did a typo. Maybe one of the people that they're not paying is literate. Every day that Senate Democrats continue oppose a clean funding bill, they are stopping an estimated 320 small businesses from accessing $170 million in SBA guaranteed funding. This is a very clear violation of the Hatch Act, which I know that Trump, not a big reader, but it is a real thing that prevents federal employees from engaging in partisan behavior. When told about it, Republicans were like, no thank you. But, they've never met a law they didn't want to break. So they heard about it, and they were like, We'll get to it never. Thank you so much. That is where things stand right now. The government is shut down, but on the other hand, it's broken anyway. You want to hear something funny? Because if we can't laugh through our tears, then what's the point in having tears? They're still going to be there. Mitt Romney, do you remember him? Republican senator from Utah? Actually, all jokes aside about Mitt Romney, and there are a lot of jokes, there's a great documentary called Mitt it follows his 2008 and 2012 presidential campaigns. Anyway, on Monday, Mitt Romney decided to announce that after Trump did deadly insurrection, and then we held onto our democracy by the skin of our teeth and got to have a transition of power thanks to the bravery of the Capitol Police, who prevented an angry mob that Trump sent from literally hanging the vice president and hunting Nancy Pelosi and other Democrats. After all of that, once Biden was sitting behind that resolute desk, Mitt Romney gave that ice cream loving, train riding Delawarean a call and told him to pardon Trump preemptively. Quote, I called a member of the White House, one of the senior advisors to President Biden, and I said, if the Justice Department decides to indict President Trump, I hope President Biden will immediately eliminate that and that he will provide a pardon immediately. End quote. Hey, man, I have a lot of bad ideas, like every single day. On a good day, on my very best, smartest day, I've got at least 10 dumb ideas. And I'll tell you what I do is that I don't tell people. No one's making you tell people these dumb thoughts, right? You know that you can do silence. You don't have to tell everybody every single thought in your head, and that's coming from somebody that has a podcast. He said that the reason that he had this thought is because we should not be prosecuting political enemies, which is true, but that doesn't mean that we can't prosecute criminals. What was the thought process here? Was there a thought process here? Why? Like, my guy, you could have not answered the phone when somebody was like, do you want to talk to me? Quote, the idea that the system of justice is used to punish political opponents is a very dangerous path to go down. End quote. Yep, strong agree. Have you ever heard of the system of justice being used for the justice system? For when people do crimes? Oh boy, Mitt Romney. You know how some people say there are no bad ideas? They're wrong. That guy's name is the same name as something used in baseball. In New York City, the Bronx specifically, a brick chimney 20 stories high collapsed Wednesday morning. Just kaboom! Fell straight down, sending brick, dust, and debris flying, and nobody was hurt or killed. I'm saying it fell down the side of the building. The whole thing, the whole side of the building, the whole chimney, down. Nobody was hurt or killed. Absolutely incredible. Also incredible, a 20-story high chimney. You hear a story like that, and you think to yourself, you think your job is hard. Imagine being Santa, trying to get back up a 20-story chimney. In very sad news, hang on, I'm going to do another whoosh, because tough to follow that story with this story. A story about a chimney, and then I ended it with talking about Santa having to climb up the chimney, and then I didn't really think about pairing that story with this story. So you know what I'm gonna do? One more whoosh. In very sad news, Dr. Jane Goodall, the world-famous conservationist, animal rights champion, humanitarian, and just general advocate for being and putting the best we can into the world, has died. She was 91 years old. 91. This is very sad, but 91 years old, that's a success story right there. As I do sometimes, I thought that I would give her the final word here, but I couldn't narrow it down to one quote, so I chose two. even though there are like a million to choose from. Turns out when you're a very good-hearted person, you also say some really good things. So here are some quotes that I chose for her. Quote, "The greatest danger to our future is apathy." And then I liked this one as well. Quote, "You cannot get through a single day without having an impact on the world around you. What you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make." End quote. And that's it. That's the news. I'm proud of Dr. Jane Goodall. And peace. May I suggest, if you're open to the idea, more of it? It's also fried scallop steak. I'm not going to do, but more than. That'd be an insane thing to do. So more than fried scallops, because I don't need to score you before you have taste, but if I did have to score you, you'd be a 12 out of 10 on every single day, no matter what. I'm proud of you.